Hey guys, so I'm back with a Top 5 Tuesdays. I haven't done this in a while. This is a series I do in collaboration with the Glam Dr. Mona Khan here on YouTube. I, of course, will leave a link to her channel and her video down below in my description box for you guys to check out. Definitely check out her channel. If you're into my content, you will definitely love Mona's content. And we have not done this in a while because, one, she's a doctor, so she's studying for her boards. So she has been incredibly busy, and I've been traveling and flitting about and just busy also. But we wanted to squeeze one in before she has to take her boards and before I take off for Japan. So we thought we would just talk about our top 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes of the moment. So I'll be talking about palettes that are not just, you know, favorites of the moment, but palettes that I'm like excited for, like really excited for. So those are ones that are going to typically be a little bit more brand new. So ones that I haven't even necessarily used too often. So why don't we actually go ahead and get started with those two palettes that kind of fit that description. I have not had either of these very long, but I am very excited about both of them. So the first one is the Natasha Jinora Metropolis palette, and I posted a first impressions video of this. I've been able to use it one other time, and I just love it. It is typical Natasha Jinora shadows. The formulas are very consistent with her other formulas and her other palettes. The creamy mattes are just that. They're very creamy, they're mattes, they blend really easily. The metallic shades in here are absolutely gorgeous. They're so creamy. Many of them are the cream to powder formula, and you can just feel it. Like when you put your brush in there, if you put your finger in there, it just feels so amazing. So the first impressions look that I did for my video was mainly of these 3 colors, this orange and then these 2 greens, and I use this as a transition. And I thought it looked like a lot of fun, but not too crazy. It was very autumnal, and I feel like anytime I use a shade like this one, I want to call it a pumpkin spice latte look. So I loved that. And then the other time I used this palette, I used more of like these more neutral shades over here just to see if I could create more like an everyday look from this palette, because when I look at this palette as a whole, it's very colorful, it's very saturated, it's very deep in color, and I'm pretty fair skinned. So I wanted to see if I would be able to just kind of eke out just a very natural, everyday kind of look. And I was able to. I used this color in the transition, and then I threw a couple of these in there just to kind of like blend around and like kind of ease these shades into one another. And I had a lot of fun just playing with these like brown tones, and I thought the look came out really nicely. So I've been enjoying this palette more and more the more I use it. I mentioned this, I think, in my video, my first impressions video, that when I saw like preview pics, I wasn't that excited about it. You know, I was excited about individual shades and knowing how much I like the Natasha Jinora formula. I was excited in that way, but for the entire color story, I wasn't exactly sure if this palette inspired me, but it is definitely growing on me, and I'm really excited to like dig further into it and make more looks. So that is the new Natasha Jinora Metropolis palette. The next palette is one that I am definitely very excited for, but at this point I have only swatched it. I am going to film a first impressions video of this palette very soon, but this is the Pat McGrath Midnight Sun Mothership 6 palette, and I actually feel very similarly to this palette as I do to the Natasha Jinora palette, where when I first saw this color story, I actually wasn't that excited. I thought, okay, it just looks kind of desaturated. It looks very kind of burnt out in a way. You know, I kept looking and I think, oh, I probably would have done like a brighter green, or maybe I would have made this a little bit more of like a pinky purple. Like I just had like all these like what I would have done. But now that I have it in my hands and I am looking at it, it is beautiful. It is really beautiful. I have swatchy shadows, which I'll flash now. And there are 2 shades in here that I thought felt really dry. This dark brown one, so I'm curious to see how this is going to behave on the lid. It just swatched really dry. And then this gold shade up here is a different formula than these other 3. I believe these 2 are the same, and then this one is like the red shade in the Bronze Seduction. It's very smooth. This one feels like sand. It feels really gritty. So that's another one I'm very curious to see how it actually behaves on the lid. Other than that, I feel like the shades felt very similarly to other Pat McGrath shadows that I have. These kind of satin shades felt very creamy. These 2 mattes I thought swatched really nicely. They felt a little bit more smooth than this one. And then these 3 are again, very similar to other Pat McGrath shadows. And like I mentioned, this one is very similar to that red shade in the Bronze Seduction. So you guys know how much I love Pat McGrath eyeshadows especially. So I'm very, very excited to play around with this palette. And in fact, you will probably see my video on this palette before this video goes up. So this may seem a little bit odd, but if you saw that, then you will have heard my thoughts, at least my first impressions thoughts on that. And I'm sure I'll be back for like a favorites or just kind of like a follow-up to let you know, how this one did. I think I'll do, how I did a roundup for foundations. I'll probably do a roundup for eyeshadow palettes, because I feel like the eyeshadow palette releases are definitely gearing up. And I did want to ask you guys, are you interested in that Charlotte Tilbury like 12 pan palette? I can't remember what she calls it, but it looks like her last year's palette, except it's blue looking, but it has like the 4 groupings of 3 shadows. I was not planning on getting it. It doesn't excite me. I feel like I'm seeing the same things over and over from Charlotte Tilbury. I feel like I have that, or I have those colors. They're not very different. But if you guys want me to review it, if you guys are really, really interested in it, please let me know down below in the comment section and I will get that. But what I was saying is I feel like the eyeshadow palette releases are starting to gear up, and I feel like I'm gonna have to do an eyeshadow palette roundup very soon. So anyway, that is the Mothership 6 palette from Pat McGrath. So excited for this. And then the 3 remaining palettes I'm going to talk about, I've had, well, longer than both of those. 2, not that long, but I can't stop using them, and actually one is on my eyes. And one I've had for a very long time, but I feel like my love for this has rekindled, and I think it's because this is the Cool Mattes palette from Viseart. I think it's because there's a lot of cooler toned eyeshadow palettes coming out, and I'm feeling like these transition shades are just working a little bit better, and even kind of like mixing this gray in when I have like a silvery taupe maybe. This is kind of nice to like lay down. So I've really been enjoying this Viseart palette. Of course, I still love the Neutral Mattes palette. That comes in handy all the time, but I've just been reaching for this one more just recently. So if you have the Neutral Mattes palette and you don't have this one and you're feeling like, wow, you're kind of like jumping onto this like cooler toned eyeshadow palette train, you may want to think about getting this one, just because I feel like this will work better with all of those cooler tones. And I think some of these are available individually. Viseart did come out with some of their shadows, at least 50 of them, in individuals, and these palettes you can kind of customize them, so you can buy one of these palettes, kind of make your own. But I've really been enjoying this one a lot, and if you guys go into my description boxes for like a lot of the videos that I've done lately, you will see this listed, because I've been using the transition shades a lot in here. So that's the Viseart Cool Mattes palette. And I should mention, actually, Viseart kind of redid this palette when they came out with these Slim Pro palettes. And these are the magnetic palettes where, the eyeshadow pans pop out. Their original Cool Mattes palette looks a little bit different. And actually, I have it right here. So this is the original Cool Mattes palette. And then this is Cool Mattes 2. This is the one I've been holding up. So I think you can probably still find this some places if this one kind of speaks to you more, but this is the newer one that you'll probably see online more readily. This is in the old packaging where the pans don't pop out easily, and this is in the Slim Pro magnetic palette where these just pop out. So just wanted to mention that in case there was any confusion on these two. All right, next up I have the Rowan eyeshadow palette, and I wonder if you guys can guess whether this is the 52 or the 75 degree one. It's the 52 degree one. It's the cooler toned one. This one's beautiful. This one's beautiful. What can I say? I mean, they're both beautiful. The 75 degree one is warmer. That's the one that I used when I did like my fall autumnal PSL look. I used like the orangey copper tone in there, but this one has just been so great for like an everyday eye, despite the fact that it's very, very glittery. So what I will do is I'll use the Viseart Cool Mattes palette. I'll put down some transition shades or whatever, and then I'll just use my finger and just kind of pick one of these and put it down. This is like just a straight up cream shade. So this is really nice if you want to lay it down onto your lid, almost like a primer. And then you can layer any or all of these shadows kind of on top. So what I'll do is I'll put one of the Viseart Cool Mattes down. Sometimes I'll put this right on top of my lid, and then I'll tap one of these on top just to kind of give it a little bit more glitter and shine. And these are like a cream to powder formula. So these are very, very creamy. And what I've noticed with these shadows is that they crease, they definitely crease a bit, but I haven't experienced any fallout. So I'm very, very happy with that. But these colors to me, like at this moment, are just perfect. Like they're the perfect neutral, the perfect tones, the perfect like everyday look with a little bit of punch because they're so glittery. So I've been reaching for this a lot. I've been enjoying it a lot. I think these are really fun without being too ostentatious. So that is the 52 degree eyeshadow palette from Rowan. And then last but not least, I mean, it really is just kind of a toss up between the green brown and the blue purple. I love the green brown. I've had that a little bit longer than the purple blue because the purple blue I got during the Sephora VIB sale. The purple blue is what I have on my eyes today. So here is the purple blue. These palettes are 5 years old. Natasha Jinora actually came out with the Metropolis palette as like a 5-year anniversary thing to these palettes, which were her first eyeshadow releases. She came out with these 2 palettes. On one hand, it's like, I can't believe how quickly time goes by. And then on the other hand, I'm like, it was only 5 years ago. Like, I feel like these are so iconic. Like, these have been around forever. They've been in my makeup consciousness for like so long that I almost can't believe they've only been around for 5 years. But apparently this is their 5-year anniversary. So this is what I've been really, really, really loving lately. And I'm trying to remember what I have on my eye. So this is what I have like on the inner portion of my lids. That's the really bright, shiny silver that you see. And then I have some of this down on the outer corner. And then I actually combined this and this. And I just tapped a little bit on the outer corner. And then I kind of lined my lower lash line with these 2 shades kind of tapped together. Oh yeah, and then I have this shade kind of like in the middle of my lid. So that's what I have going on my eyes today. I just love this palette. I love it. You know, and I never really wanted it. I was never really interested in it, but it was like all I could see were like the colors that I wouldn't use, which is, I don't know, maybe 4 or 3, not even never use, but wouldn't use often. And there's maybe like 3 or 4 in here. And I was completely ignoring the rest of the palette, which are colors that I would use. So I'm so happy I picked this up during the sale. And then this palette I've mentioned a lot, and this is definitely more in my wheelhouse, but this is the green brown. But at the moment, I want to say I'm a little bit more excited for the purple blue, probably because it's a little bit newer than the green brown, and it's a little bit more different for me, and it's just a little bit more exciting. So the Natasha Jinora purple blue will round out this top 5 list. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to check out Mona's channel, Mona's video. I'm really excited to hear what her eyeshadow picks are because we have fairly different taste. I mean, we have different skin tone, different skin type, completely different eye shape. So I would love to hear what her eyeshadow palette picks are for this week. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it so much. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.